In today's video, I would like to talk about something a little bit different. There's no shortage of videos on YouTube talking about what should we do in a survival situation, what plans should we make, and what type of equipment should we have ready to go. Unfortunately, the vast majority of those videos are just rehashing all of the crap that we saw on Nat Geo and Discovery and History, Survivor Man and Bear Grylls and all this kind of stuff. And not that that stuff is necessarily always bad, but it's not relevant for the vast majority of North Americans. The likelihood of you being trapped on a desert island in the Pacific is remote. Same thing being somehow stuck out in the middle of northern Canada in the winter. And for those situations, those guys are great. But for the average American, that's what this video is going to be about. I'm going to talk about 10 things that you need to have in your survival plans, in your survival kit, that you won't hear talked about anywhere else on YouTube. Now, the most likely survival situation that North Americans are going to face in their lives is this. At some point, you're going to be out on a highway, things are going to be fine, right up into the point they're not. And traffic's going to come to a standstill. You're not going to know necessarily why, but 1 hour turns to 4 hours, turns to 12 hours. And that's when people start to panic. Now, the kit that I'm going to describe is something that you should keep in your car at all times, no exceptions. Don't bring it into the house, put it together, and leave it in the trunk, in the back, wherever it's easiest. There's going to come a time when you're going to have to make a decision to leave the vehicle and start walking. You may only be 20 miles from home, but you might as well be 20 days from home in a situation like this. Now, we can debate the causes all day long, but if that's the case, and you're stuck and there's no hope, the first thing that decision you're going to have to make is get my vehicle off the road. I need to get my vehicle out of the way, off onto the berm somehow. And so the first decision really comes down to, what vehicle am I driving every day? Now, I'm not a car salesman, but I used a lot of this logic in my decision-making process for having a vehicle. I would personally rather have a 4, 5, 6-year-old vehicle that is all-wheel drive than have a brand new one that is 2-wheel drive. Because if you would have to, in any situation, somehow get off of paved roads, you need something that can at least handle it at a basic fundamental level. I chose this particular one. It's a 16 Acadia Denali. One of the primary reasons I chose it, 20-inch standard rims, all-wheel drive. That's bigger than most pickup trucks. This particular version of the Acadia can tow as much as a GMC Canyon or a Chevy Colorado. Now, are there better vehicles? Sure, absolutely. There are all sorts of better vehicles for off-roading. Not usually, though, ones you can get for $20,000. So, this is the first decision that you would need to make. Have a vehicle that can at least somehow basically handle being put into a basic off-road situation. You're not going to go rock hopping with this. But for 20 grand, drives like a car, almost 300 horsepower, can tow as much as a small pickup truck, and has bigger rims, bigger tires. And for those of you who know about being off-road or being away from paved roads, the bigger the rims, the all-wheel drive makes a huge difference. And if you would have to stay in the vehicle for a day, 2 days, 3 days, plenty of room, put down the seats. It's an 8-seater, can sleep in the back, not a problem. Now, the kit. Choosing the bag itself is critical. What you need is basically 4 things in the bag itself. It has to have the ability, number 1, to be carried across your shoulders so that you're not carrying it in your hands with a big shoulder strap, one in front, one in back, so that you can have your hands free. because over 8, 10, 12, 15-hour trip, trying to just hold on to a heavy bag is just not a recipe for success. This particular bag not only has that ability, it has shoulder straps for like a backpack. It has a secondary handle here. It also, and this is the one most survival guys miss, it has the ability to roll. And that is huge in a situation like this. Now, I chose the best pictures I could here to show this. Here, of course, are the shoulder straps. Here's the big cross strap. It has these skids, the ability to roll, this handle. What if you had a kid with you and they got tired of walking? You could have them ride on this. We see that in airports all the time. So this is what I would choose. Something that can roll, something that can be a backpack, something that has a large strap that can go across your body in case you need to carry it that way. Now, these are fine, but they limit you, and they're specific tool for specific mission. You know, it's not ideal if you are dealing with civilians or people that don't have the ability to hump a large heavy pack like this. The first thing that goes into your kit is a good pair of Muck Boots. Now, a lot of you are out there saying, wait a minute, that's a lot of space. You know, I want to get the best bang for my buck. I want to have the most survival equipment I can. These are going to take up a ton of space. They're hollow. You can put things inside them. And the reason they are the number one thing on my list, is this. If you are on the side of the road, those berms and those medians are giant swamps. I chose this picture. It's a viral video on YouTube. It shows this Toyota, big 3/4 ton, perhaps 1 ton Toyota 4x4, stuck in this median, needing another jacked up dually 1 ton 4x4 to get it out. And even with both of these vehicles having 4-wheel drive, pedal to the metal, it takes them forever to get this thing out. That's how mucky and marshy these places are. You need at least one good pair of Muck Boots. It's going to be critical because you're never going to, if you try to traverse through one of these things in just your everyday tennis shoes or even really normal ankle-high boots, you're screwed. So Muck Boots, Muck Boots, Muck Boots. And in each Muck Boot, put a 1.5 liter bottle of water. Fits perfectly. In fact, the 1.5 liter bottle of Fiji fits perfectly, depth size, width-wise, into a normal Muck Boot sleeve. And that gives you 3 liters of water. That should be able to get you a good long way, a good huge head start in your quest for fresh water, assuming you're starting off well hydrated and healthy. Now, the first thing you're going to encounter once you've made the decision to leave, once you've decided to leave the highway and abandon your car, the first thing you're going to encounter is this. I promise you. All of these highways are usually lined with farm fields, hydro lines, places meant only for usually maintenance personnel and city personnel, and they have these big fences up. You are not going to go over the top of this thing without putting yourself or members of your party at great risk. You slice open an arm, a calf, a thigh on this barbed wire, and you're screwed. So the third thing, I guess, in the pack are these. And this is something I have never seen any survivalist talk about. A good, nice, heavy-duty pair of snips so that you can just snip, 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 snip your way past a fence if you have to, with no risk to anybody. And perhaps a good, decent pair of heavy-duty gloves like this that this guy's wearing, so that you can use them effectively, so that you can handle the sharp edges once they're cut and be able to move through. And as you go through these fields and farm fields and abandoned areas, or not necessarily abandoned areas, but not populated areas, you'll be able to just walk right through and not have to worry about lifting kids over or helping elderly people over these sharp, tall fences. Real simple. Pair of Snips. Pair of Snips, heavy-duty pair of gloves, Muck Boots, a couple liters of water, and a decent bag that you don't have to carry by hand. And, you have already affected really good survival at that point. These can be got on Amazon for $40, $50, I think. And you can get them a lot cheaper. This is just a really good pair. Now, the reason I chose the Fiji bottle and am going here is because eventually, at some point, if you run out of water, you're going to need to get a new source of water and decontaminate it. These are super cheap. Super duper cheap to put in your pack. And you've got 2 giant bottles so that if you find a source of water, you can refill up to 3 liters as opposed to having 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 littler bottles, which is what a lot of people do. They grab a case of water of all those little things, not realizing that how are we going to carry these things? Also, Fiji bottles are big, thick plastic. If you were ever at a point where you had to somehow start a fire and boil water, those big plastic things can actually handle it if you handle the fire right. You can much more easily boil water in one of those than a cheapy like Aquafina bottle. Or one of these. Very simple, very easy to get, super cheap. Now, this is where a lot of people are probably going to debate with me on this, because they always want to talk about the EMP and the loss of electronic this, that, or the other. That may be the case, that may not be the case. But once you leave the vehicle, you're on borrowed time with your electronic devices. Google Maps on most devices now has what they call downloaded offline maps. And having a map of your area is going to be critical. And most of you, I know, have smartphones. But without the car, how are you going to keep it charged? This little thing folds up. Nice, super tiny package, and can be laid out, and you can actually hang it over your pack and have it be charging and plugged into your phone, just off the sun. And it doesn't have to be sunny. Any source of light will do. And the information that you're going to get from that little handheld device is going to be critical to your survival. Critical to it. Even if there's no Wi-Fi, even if there's no internet, those offline maps with Google Maps you will have to have that to be able to navigate where you're at. And, even secondarily, the kids are going to get bored. Keep this thing charged up, hand it to them, and they can do whatever while they're riding on your, rolly bag. That's huge in any survival situation where you've got kids, where you've got, and maybe you do run into some place that's got Wi-Fi or some type of connection where just for that moment, you might have the ability to get the information you need. Maybe you need to turn right back around and go get your car because it's all been cleared up and you left an hour, too soon. That's just part of it. Just always give yourself the option. And something like this is cheap to have in your pack to do that. Maybe useless for the rest of humanity, who knows? But always give yourself the option. Now, my gamer friends out there, I want you guys to step up on this, and there's so much opinion about self-protection. Why are gamer guys important in this? Because gamer guys and girls understand the importance of what they call AOE weapons, meaning area of effect. If you would run into something out there that wouldn't like your presence, could be something as simple as a herd of cows. And a lot of people would laugh at that, but trust me, when they see people in their area they don't like, they can be nasty and surly and a problem because they weigh 1,200, 2,000 pounds. This will keep them away. This will keep a group of people away. You can choose to have one singular ballistic weapon that can shoot in one direction at one thing at one time. Or you can have something like this that can affect an area in front of you of damage. And trust me, there's a lot of people out there who've had experience with bear spray that say they would rather have been shot than catch some of this stuff in the face. This is your best bet area of effect weapon, and once again, you can use it, a 10-year-old can use it, an 85-year-old can use it, somebody with one broken hand can use it. This is the point. And it will get the job done. Now, last thing. Now, there's lots of other things that need to go in a survival kit, and usually they're covered by other channels. And I'm going to let you guys just make your own decisions on that. But this is not something that I've seen a lot of guys talk about. When you start getting off the road, off to the side, through these mucky, marshy areas, wooded areas, you're going to run into, and depending on where you live, if it's winter, this doesn't really apply, but anywhere else where it's not, you're going to run into bugs like nobody's business. Just a decent hat with something simple like this, a mesh over it, could be the difference for a kid, at someone who's infirm, elderly, yourself, not getting bit up by mosquitoes or anything else, or ticks or whatever else. And once again, simple, easy thing. Nobody talks about it, but in a survival situation, especially having been stationed down in South America, trust me on this one. This is a critical piece of survival. So, like I said, there's a lot more. I could go on for an hour, but usually most of those things are already covered in other videos. This video was 10 things that you didn't probably think you needed that you should have. So, number 1, this. Number 2, this. 3, 4, 5. This is kind of 6 and 7, the snips and the gloves. 8, 9, and 10. So, I hope this helped. Like, share, subscribe, and we will see you next time.